Not too long ago, I met someone new and we were making small talk, and they asked me the question that we all ask each other. So, what do you do? I responded and I said, I'm a speaker, author, and podcaster. And without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, anyone could do that. Anyone could do that. And I'm telling you, it immediately rubbed me the wrong way because in one little sentence, it felt like he was diminishing my path. He was minimizing my years of speaking experiences, the lived experience that gives my message its specificity, the stuff that makes what I say mine and nobody else's. All of it just waved away like it was nothing. And I'll be honest with you, I thought about that comment for a long time after the interaction. But eventually I did something with it. And it ended up teaching me a lesson that I didn't expect, a lesson about what it actually costs to become the person that you're trying to become. And I'll tell you what I landed on a little bit later in today's episode. But hear me on this first. I don't believe that the biggest thing standing between you and the person you're becoming is talent. It's that nobody ever handed you the invoice up front. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Hello, my powerful people. This is the Info Power Podcast, and I'm your host, Jasmine Conway. Now, today's episode is for someone specific. This one is for the person who started something, the business, the degree, the new career, the podcast, and keeps catching themselves thinking, shouldn't I be further along by now? It's for the person with the idea that is still living in their notes app because they're waiting until they feel ready. It's for the person who finally spoke up in the meeting or gave the presentation or posted the video and then replay the whole thing in their head all night long. And it is especially for the person who has been paying and has started to wonder whether it's ever going to pay off. Stay with me because today's episode is for you. All right, let's get into it. So here's something I believe. Most people don't get discouraged because they're incapable. They get discouraged because they're surprised. Think about it. We grow up hearing these stories about success. We hear about people building businesses, writing best-selling books, running marathons, leading teams, standing on stages, starting over. We hear about what they became. But almost nobody talks about what it cost them to become that person. And here's the thing, that's where so many of us get stuck because somewhere along the way, we picked up this belief that if something feels hard, maybe it's not meant for us. If it feels awkward, maybe we're not good at it. If progress is slow, maybe we don't have what it takes. But what if none of that is true? What if what you're feeling isn't a sign that you're on the wrong path? What if it's simply the price? Let me show you what I mean. If a friend told you that they wanted to run a marathon, would you expect them to wake up tomorrow and casually knock out 26.2 miles? No, absolutely not. You would expect that they would have sore legs, that there would be missed workouts, early mornings, runs where they question why they even signed up in the first place. And they're not failing. That's just what marathon training looks like. If they told you that they wanted to become a confident public speaker, would you expect one speech to make them feel like they're a complete natural up there? No, you would expect them to be nervous. Maybe they talk too fast, they forget a point, they replay it in their heads afterwards. That's not failing. That is what learning looks like. And we understand this about everyone else. But when it comes to us, suddenly we expect the process to feel different, cleaner, faster, more comfortable. And when it doesn't, we start asking ourselves if we're just not cut out for it. And psychologists actually have a name for this trap. There is this whole line of research on something called desirable difficulties. In study after study, when learning feels smooth and easy, people are convinced that it's working. And when it feels clunky and hard, they're convinced that it's failing. But when researchers measure what people actually retain, it flips. The practice that felt harder is the one that produced the growth. In other words, Our feelings are terrible referees for our progress. Feeling like a struggling beginner and becoming genuinely good are usually happening at the exact same time. You just can't feel the second one yet. And I caught myself forgetting this too, more than once. With speaking, with building this podcast, with business, that thought, shouldn't I be further along, has visited me plenty of times. And maybe you've had it too. You look around and somebody else seems more polished, more experienced, more confident. And it's so easy to forget you're looking at someone after years of unseen work. You weren't there for the hundreds of repetitions that nobody applauded. You didn't see the versions of themselves that they outgrew. So here's the first shift that I want to offer you. And I think one of the biggest lies that we believed is this: if I'm on the right path, it shouldn't feel this uncomfortable. We have confused discomfort with misalignment. And those are not the same thing. Learning is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Doing something that you have never done before is uncomfortable. That doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it new. So let me tell you a story about somebody who understood this. Years ago, there was a teenager sitting alone on the bedroom floor. The fingertips were sore from hours of practice. There were so many crumbled up pages that were scattered everywhere, work that didn't turn out the way that they hoped. They'd write something, tear it out, start over, do it again. And over the years, there were hundreds of attempts, most that were never heard by anyone, and a lot of them, honestly, not very good. That teenager was Ed Sheeran when he was 16 years old. And later in his career, he shared this analogy that I just love. He said that creativity is like turning on an old faucet. When you first turn it on, the water comes out cloudy. It's like rust color. It's full of everything that's been building up in those pipes. And most people see that dirty water and they turn the faucet off. And they assume that that's all that's in there. But the dirty water was never the destination. It's just what has to come out first. The only way to get to the clean water is to keep the faucet running. How many goals have we walked away from simply because we mistook the dirty water for our potential? Because if every uncomfortable feeling becomes a reason to stop, you're going to spend your whole life turning the faucet off before the water ever gets a chance to clear. Now, let me tell you what operating in full power means here, because this is important. Operating in full power does not mean the goal stops costing you something. It means you get to be the one who decides what's worth paying for. You don't need anyone's permission to be a beginner. You are entitled to be a beginner. You get to be new at things. You get to wobble. You get to produce work that's not your best work yet, because your best does not exist without a beginning. Being in full power, operating in full power is not the absence of an invoice. It is knowing that you get to read it and choose it on purpose. So now I want to show you what's actually on that invoice, because I don't think it's what most people assume. Because I don't necessarily think it's time. People love to say success takes time, and yes, it does. But time is not what makes people quit. I don't even think it's hard work. I think what makes people quit is that the work asks them to feel. Think about it. You decide that you want to become a runner. The hardest part usually isn't the running. It's feeling slow, feeling out of shape, feeling like everybody at the track is passing you. You decide to start posting your work online. The hardest part is not pressing post, is wondering what people are going to think, wondering if anyone's going to watch, wondering if someone from high school is rolling their eyes while they're looking at you online. Those are the moments that make people stop. They're capable people. They just don't like what the process makes them feel. Which brings me back to the comment from the top of the show when that new person I met said, anyone could do that. When I really reflected on it, here's where I landed. Choosing this path, choosing to become visible, has a cost. And sometimes that cost is standing in the spotlight and not being respected for the road that you took to get there. Sometimes the cost is exposing yourself to criticism and judgment at scale from people who have never once done the thing that they're judging. His comment wasn't proof that I had chosen wrong. It was a line item on the invoice. It was right there on the invoice, and it had been there the whole time. I didn't get to choose whether that cost existed. I only got to choose whether the work was worth it. And spoiler alert, it is. So here's the deeper question I started asking myself after that. Am I trying to protect my future or am I trying to protect my ego? Because those two goals are usually in conflict. If your job is protecting your ego, you'll skip the presentation. You'll stay silent in the meeting. You'll keep the business idea in the notes app. You'll keep saying, well, I'm just waiting until I'm more ready. But if your job is protecting your future, sometimes your ego has to take a hit. Sometimes it has to sit in the back seat. Sometimes you have to be willing to look like a beginner, to say that something doesn't land perfectly, to create work that's not your best yet. Mediocrity is not the goal, but excellence has never once existed without a beginning. And I heard someone say recently, don't protect the person that you are today so much that you prevent yourself from becoming the person that you are capable of being. That hit me. That hit me. Because that's exactly what so many of us are doing, protecting today's comfort at tomorrow's expense. And here's another shift that changed how I think. I used to treat uncomfortable moments like it was some sort of penalty, like something had gone wrong, like, some proof that I wasn't built for this. And now I just see it as a payment. And that is a difference. A penalty, it feels unfair, but a payment is expected. Imagine walking into your favorite coffee shop, you order your drink, and the barista tells you the total. You don't get offended. You don't think, wow, this place must not want me here. No, you understand that if you want the coffee, there is a price. Now, imagine ordering that latte and saying, I'd really love this, but I actually don't think I should have to pay. That sounds ridiculous. And yet, that's exactly how we approach growth. I want confidence. I just don't want to feel uncertain. I want to be a leader. I just don't want to make mistakes. I want to build a business. I just don't want to feel what it feels like if someone ignores my work. We want the outcome, but we don't want the invoice. And here's the thing, every meaningful goal is going to come with a cost, with a bill, with an invoice. That's not life being cruel to you. That is just how becoming works. And you know what I've noticed about the people that we admire? They don't seem shocked by the bill. Athletes expect to train, musicians expect to write songs that nobody hears, authors expect rough drafts, comedians expect jokes that don't land. They don't treat those moments like it's a sign that they're in the wrong profession. They treat them like Tuesday. Seriously, it's just another Tuesday, another repetition, another payment. And I have lived this with the show that you are listening to right now. I've lived this with the In Full Power podcast. When I first started this podcast, of course I wanted people to hear it. But if I had decided that every episode needed to be perfect before I released it, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. There are things in my earlier episodes that I would do differently now. My pacing, my delivery, how I explain certain ideas. But I could not learn those lessons without releasing the episodes first. The confidence I have behind the mic today was not waiting for me at the starting line, but it did meet me somewhere along the path, one payment at a time. So the invoice is real, but here's what I haven't told you yet. There isn't just one. There are two. And the second one is the one that nobody warns you about. Most of us, when we're starting a goal, we ask ourselves one question: can I do this? And I'm telling you, that is not a helpful question, because the moment you ask it, your brain starts building a case against you. Like, well, you've never done it before. You weren't very good last time. Remember when it didn't work? It's amazing how fast our minds can turn into a prosecutor. So I started asking a different question. Am I willing to pay the price? Am I willing to pay the price? Those are two completely different conversations. One is about ability, and the other is about commitment. One asks whether you are already capable, and the other assumes you're capable of becoming. Now, here's the part about the two invoices. Every goal has a price, but so does not pursuing it. So you've always wanted to start a business. The cost of starting might read uncertainty, long nights, slow progress, figuring it out as you go. But the bill for never starting, that's years of what if, watching someone else build the idea that you've been sitting on, a regret that never fully goes away. Or there's a hard conversation that you've been avoiding. The cost of speaking up might be discomfort, awkwardness, the risk that they don't respond the way that you hoped. But there's also a bill for staying silent. And that bill might be resentment, distance, losing little pieces of yourself every time you swallow what needed to be said. And you're going to pay either way. That's the truth that nobody puts on the motivational graphics. The question was never whether you'll pay. The question is which price you'd rather live with. Now, before I let you go, I promise something at the top for the person who's been paying and it still hasn't paid off. Here it is. Not every invoice deserves your signature. There is a difference between a price and a bad deal, and you deserve to know how to tell them apart. A price builds you even before the payoff shows up. Every payment turns into something: skill, resilience, wisdom, relationships, proof of who you are. You can feel yourself becoming more, even when it's hard. But a bad deal, it takes without building. It asks you to betray your values, to pay in self-respect instead of effort. It leaves you less than it found you. So the question isn't, is this hard? Hard is the entry fee for everything worthwhile. The question is this hard making me more of who I am or less? And if it's making you more, keep the faucet running. The cloudy water is not your ceiling, it's your beginning. And if it's making you less, you get to renegotiate. You get to walk away. And hear me, quitting the wrong thing is not failure. That is good accounting. Okay. All right, my powerful people, here is your power practice for the week, because you know I love to leave you with a power practice. I want you to pick one goal that you have, and I want you to actually write the invoice for it. Take out a pen and write 3 line items, 3 real costs of going after it. Real costs, not vague ones. Maybe it's feeling like a beginner in front of people who know me. Maybe it's hearing anyone could do that. Or maybe it's posting before I feel polished. And then you read it aloud and you make a decision. If you're in, say it out loud. I am willing to pay this. Sign it. And when those costs show up this week or next month, and they will, you won't be surprised. You will recognize them. That'll just be the bill that you already agreed to. And if you read it and you're not willing to sign, that is not weakness. That is information. That is you deciding on purpose instead of just drifting. But either way, you are the one holding the pen. You'll get to decide if your signature belongs on that. And that is the whole point. That brings me back to Ed Sheeran, sitting on that floor at 16, surrounded by crumpled up paper everywhere. And honestly, it brings me back to that comment too. Anyone could do that. Maybe anyone could, but not everyone will, because the people we admire didn't skip the dirty water. They didn't just stop there. They kept writing, kept speaking, kept applying, kept showing up, and eventually the water cleared. They didn't get lucky and they didn't wake up one day as different people. They kept the faucet running long enough for the process to do what the process has always done. And here's the last thing I want you to hold on to, because this is the part I most want you to take with you. The clean water was in the pipes the whole time. That invoice never buys you talent. It never buys you worthiness. Those are already yours. It is just the delivery fee, the cost of getting what's already inside of you out into the world where it belongs. So you don't have to become someone new. You just have to be willing to pay for the delivery of someone who already exists. And you owe it to yourself to find out who that person is. Don't mistake today's discomfort for tomorrow's destination. Don't confuse your beginning with your potential. And whatever you do, don't turn that faucet off too soon. Stay powerful. If this resonated with you, share it with another powerful person who needs to hear it. I'm Jasmine Conway. This is the Info Power Podcast. I'll talk to you next time.